All right, perfect. Exactly. Like business content, I don't actually all content. It has to be a human to human point of resonance in order for it to work. Like even Google just dropped a document today that's kind of like blowing up LinkedIn. It's like, oh, the key to a good SEO strategy is your brand. I'm like, first of all,
Really?
no shit, Sherlock. Like, first of all, and then second, like, yeah, it always has been because a brand is like a feeling. It's an emotion. It's like an evocation, right? Like, anyway, this
It's wild though how many businesses still do not understand what a brand is. They think it's a logo.
yeah,
They
it's
don't understand.
colors and shapes.
We go through this whole process when we work with clients that struggle with this, called the personification of their brand.
Uh-huh.
And it just like messes with people because they've thought about it in this concept. We're saying, okay, imagine that your business is a person. What do they look like?
Yeah.
How old are they?
Yeah.
How do they dress? How do they talk? And the thing is, they usually, when we go through this exercise, they're trying to be a particular customer that they want or whatever. And I was like, okay, that can work, but your business as its like, how do you want your business to be perceived online? If your business opened, if it was a person and they had a Facebook profile, if they had a LinkedIn portfolio, if they had a website that was just an individual, how would they talk? How would they look? Who would they be friends with? What kind of stuff would they be interested in?
Yes. Well,
and when we people through that, it helps them to understand, like, oh, that's what a brand is.
Right. I love what you said, like, who would you be friends with? What I like to do when people are like not quite understanding that brand exercise, you know, the crosshairs of like market position, right? It's usually like some like revenue and some other number. I like to put personality traits in there. I'm like if your brand had a personality trait that was like, is it modern and edgy, or is it like traditional and like you know, I would say stuffy sometimes, but like, is it like, what is it? And then I put other brands in there that are not necessarily in their industry, just like, is it more Nike or is it more Ralph Lauren? Is it more Laura Piana? Is it more Old Navy? Like what, like, who is it, right? And like do that on personality.
Something that I would recommend, we do celebrity. We have people choose a celebrity or like a movie character that really encapsulates. So for example, like Audrey Hepburn and Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Yeah.
That is such a, when we have clients that want something that's timeless and elegant and sophisticated, but they don't want to be stuffy. No one wants to be stuffy, right?
No.
It can be, maybe it's her, maybe it's Don Draper, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, when you start to put it like as a character in it, they're like, oh, I get it. Yeah, how would Don Draper talk? Would he say that?
Yes.
But then, and that's very different than like, because a lot of businesses try to be something that they're not.
That they're super not.
A company like, for example, Duolingo is so good at the humor element.
Yes, so funny.
They are super funny. They're super relevant. And so businesses see that their stuff is blowing up and they're like, I just need to be funny. But not if it doesn't align with anything.
Do you do funny? I don't know. Are you funny?
I'm funny. You guys
I don't think so. Yeah, in fact, my favorite story to tell about like real brand immersions, like getting to like, what is your brand? My favorite VP I ever worked for, he worked for L'Oreal for 15, 20 years as their like global head of like luxury brands. And he told me something about Kate Spade. He's like, Kate Spade is interesting because anytime, if you touch anything that has to do with the Kate Spade brand, you're required to go to the Kate Spade offices and spend at least like 3 hours in the Kate Spade room. So they've taken one of their conference rooms and decked it out into the apartment of the New York girl. Like their customer is like between 22 and like 28 and like lives in New York, has a certain job, like whatever. And they have filled this entire space with like every, like the comforter she would buy, the mattress she would be into, the like who's on, like what Bravo show she's watching, like, and you can go inhabit this room. And it's someone's whole job to keep it up to date, like, because it changes about every month of like what's going on, like what's the coolest thing, who, like, she's like the it girl, right? And they have an address for this apartment. I think it's on the Upper East Side. Last time I remember this, but it's one of those things where like they found that when they did that, every single one of the vendors can operate and make brand decisions without any supervision, because like what you're trying to describe is not a color, it's not a texture, it's not a hex code, it's not like very specific language, it's not even a set of emojis, but it's a feeling. And if what you're producing as a vendor can evoke that same feeling you got in that room, then approved. If it doesn't, you know that, and you need to go back to the drawing board. It's like 1,000%. Isn't that cool?
That is actually, that's the depth of understanding your customers at like the deepest level. What that reminds me of, even though it's because not everyone can replicate that exact thing.
Yeah.
But I remember last week we went to this marketing event in Houston, and the marketing director of the Texans was there talking about the rebrand. And what I thought was super sick was talking about how they wanted to get back to understanding their fans on a very, very deep level. And they went the extra mile. They could have put out a survey. They could have talked to a few different people or done a one-time case study. But instead, they actually put together a group that exists perpetually that rotates people of all different socioeconomic backgrounds, of all different makeup, and they're giving these people first, giving them insight to join.
Yeah.
And as a result, they get this consistent feedback of what's going on with their demographic.
Yes.
I feel like most business content, if it sucks, is because they actually are not in touch with customers. They don't know what they care about. They don't know what they want. They don't know what's relevant in their lives. So how can they serve them with any sort of authenticity?
Totally. Like it's completely lacking. Yeah, authenticity is a great word. That like through line. That I think what people miss these days is, I mean, since the advent of social media, this has been a two-way conversation. Now, I think commerce has always been a two-way conversation, but we've just gotten better at being better conversation partners, right? So and usually you only got the closed feedback loop in like sales, but now you get it in like subtleties, in like conversations and pieces, and you can be responsive to what's happening around you. Like once your customer takes your brand and runs with it, like it turns it into something else, and then you can like build on it. Like I just saw, obviously this week is important for me because the second half of Bridgerton season 3 is coming out. Okay. So like if you need me Friday, I will not be available, everybody. I'm like, no. Like and probably not this whole weekend. I'm going to rewatch the whole thing top to bottom. Right. So, but what I love is I saw this thing they posted the day, like Nicola Coughlan did some interview where she's just like talking like, I think the question was like, if you weren't doing this, what would you be doing for a job? And she's like, when the Real Housewives release music that's specifically for the gay community and it's just listing things, it's like shoes, private yachts, more shoes, like handbags, whatever. And she's like, that's what I would do. The internet ate it up and they like remixed it, so now it's a song. And like this comes on the heels of the other trend on TikTok that's happening right now. Like earlier, there was like this girl's like, I want to make this song of the summer, and it needs to be, I'm looking for a man in finance, blue eyes, 6 months, right? So it's like that thing happened, and then Nicola Coughlan said this thing, and now like the internet is putting those two things together. So they've remade this song that's now what's happening. Netflix corporate posted a picture of like something in season 3, and the caption just says shoes, private yachts, more shoes, and you can hear it now. Like it's so like, and I was like,
because they're so tapped in to what's going on. And I think that can happen if you have a really quick response time. Yes. A lot of corporate social media accounts are stifled because you have to go through long approval times and like waiting for, I'm gonna be honest, you miss the boat.
You do.
Trends nowadays, they're a day. They're a week and you're gone. So if you're like, oh, let me post this a month later, not relevant.
And it's more detrimental if you post it later because people are like, oh, you didn't get that. Like now I know what your lag time is to the industry. And now I can't count on you being anything that you've told me you're being innovative, ahead of the curve, cutting edge, like all of that, like blah, blah website marketing copy. Like you just disproved it. So now you're lying to me. I'm not going to use you. Like, yeah, if your social media manager doesn't have like, one, a deep understanding of your customer and therefore your brand and kind of total autonomy. Like,
okay, a good example of how this can go awry, but and I think something they can do about it. I don't know if you saw Target, what they did recently. So they were teasing a very big collab, and they teased it where they took the red Target basket. They had a graphic where it turns bright pink. And everyone was obsessed. They're like, okay, we want those baskets. Okay. We're like, what do we think the collaboration is? Is it Bridgerton? Is it, whatever. Like they were throwing out all of these Glossier.
Barbie, yeah.
And it was Kylie Cosmetics. And there was a whole bunch of people that were like, we don't care about the Kardashians. Like, we're not missing. I mean, the comment sections were blowing up, right?
Oh, no.
And the thing is, you can try as you might. Every business misses the market point. You can think, brand collaborations can take a lot of time to put together. I'm sure they put a ton of money in and they didn't want to pull it last minute. But what I think they should do, if you ever launch something and you don't get the response you hope for, instead of hiding, figure out a way to lean into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You should just keep the pink. Like, okay, everyone was like, "Man, if we would be more excited about just the pink baskets."
Mm-hmm.
So, like, not necessarily scrapping their whole collaboration with Kylie Cosmetics, but make the pink baskets, make a bunch of pink Target merch, like do something that leans into like the feedback you get from
Totally. Or like make a whole bunch of these pink baskets that have all the other pink cosmetics in it, right? Or say like, just like a straight up apology and like, oh, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna hold these till October, and now it's a breast cancer awareness day. Why don't you spend the next 3 months? You guys submit your anyone who's going through chemo right now. We want to know about it. We're gonna send them a gift basket in October. Do you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
that's a like let's walk it all the way back and make it more useful. Like, yep, we fucked up. Let's do this. Like I feel like we've all heard these stories about how the internet is like hypercritical of things, but you also have to remember that the internet only responds to authenticity because they can smell a lie and marketing copy and a spin from a mile away. But they, as much as they can be critical, they can also be kind. So like, I forgot what company it was, but where like, I think it may have been HBO, but don't quote me on that. Where like the intern sent out a test email to like everyone and their mother. Yeah, right. And then like, and so they posted like, sorry, our intern, blah, blah, blah. They were like clearly throwing the intern under the bus. And the internet responded with just like all the times they fucked up as an intern. You know what I did? I did that. Like, just like it's such a community and it has a voice and but there's no leader. So, here we go. But if you try to start leading it by the nose, like the Kardashians are like want to do, then you're just going to end up with like hate, and you can only hate watch something so much. Right. So like, I don't know. I think the other challenge is like, so far we've been talking about consumer facing things. That's the fun, sexy, fast way to do stuff. But like, I grew up in marketing and beauty. So like I'm very much in this world, but moving back to Houston, the only thing that exists here is like business to business and then oil and gas. So like business to business is notoriously 10 years behind. I think oil and gas is another 10 years behind. So I'm looking at 20 years ago, what we were doing in marketing. Oh, gated white papers. Okay. Got it. So it's been a real challenge to come and like meet with our clients, just be like, listen, you're not doing this well or right, and I need you to like speed up. I can maybe like knock 5 or 10 years off, but like just get them to this point. Like, you need to talk to your customer. I need to talk to your customer. Do you know what I mean? Like that, just that scare, like being scared of what your customer is going to say is such a business to business mentality. And I'm like, let's eat away at that.
I feel like it's so much easier to talk about it from a consumer standpoint, right? Because it's more fun and flashy, and here's the trends. And a lot of times businesses will come to us and they just don't know they don't know what content resonates. They don't know. And I say, what would bring your audience value? And if you start by answering that question, it usually can cover, do they care about you dancing and lip sync? Do they care about being educated on a topic? Do they care about you making them laugh? A lot of times, because we work with B2B and we work with service-based businesses. Mm-hmm. So what are the things that are most important? Is it trust? Is it quality? Is it sustainability? Is it loyalty? Figure out those values that your customers care about the most. Totally. Right off the bat, it's going to be so much more connectable, because they're going to understand where you're coming from. But I think the biggest thing is like you still have to be willing to be vulnerable in some way. And that looks different as a big brand, right? Maybe that's like, oh, the intern, messed up. Yeah. Which is funny, but it's like that you can also do that in a B2B capacity. I think so many brands are afraid of not being seen as not professional.
Yes, agreed. So agreed.
Like you can be authentic and vulnerable while still seeming incredibly professional, if not more so. Mm-hmm. I believe, the person that never ever, that's like always been perfect their entire life. Everything has been great. Or the business that's like, here's the times that we missed the mark. Here's the times that we learned from.
Totally. And I think especially, as like we said, like you can be even more authentic in business to business relationships. And I think what's driving that is like, it's still a relationship business. So many deals are like still done in person. So many physical checks are still cut, right? Like this is not a conversion on a website that's a nameless, faceless credit card number. This is a real person you have a relationship with that you need to maintain for a long time. So like I had a client who like the love that I shout them out, effects management solutions. They're the head of their company. His name is Lewis, and he is a personality. Like, it's very rare for me to be in a room with somebody who has a bigger personality than me. And so when I meet them, I'm like, oh, you're fun. This is great, right? And he loves a sharp Italian suit, and he loves bold colors and patterns. Like I have a background in like fashion and men's suiting and things like that. So like when I met him, I was like, oh, we're gonna be really good friends. And so as we were talking about like how to get their message across, because like one of the things that like they do is they take like, you know, the traditional staffing model and they kind of turn on their head, and they do a couple different things there. You can go watch their content if you want to understand more about what they do. But like, because they're kind of a disruptor in their space and he's such a big personality, I was like, can we marry these things together and make some content that like speaks to that? And the way that we make it authentic is like, he's exactly the same on camera as he is in person. So there's no disconnect. Like when you meet him, because you will meet him, because this is a relationship that he's going to have with you for 10, 20 years, you'll know exactly who he is. So I sat him down. I did the lighting design. I did like the camera, like framing. I was like, I need him direct to camera, just like looking straight in your face and saying, this is what's going on. These are the problems. This is the solution here. Like, I know what's up. Like, it was amazing. And like, it's like, and then when we get into the editors, I was like, I need these to be quick jump cuts. Like, I needed to feel like machine gun fire when he's talking to you, because that's exactly how you feel when you're talking to him. Mm-hmm. They crushed it, like knocked it out of the park. And like to this day, this content is like so incredible. Like it's like the most, probably the crown jewel in my crown, actually, now I think about it. Like, because it just, every time I hear from one of their customers, or I see like even comments on social media, and he only posts this on his like LinkedIn, and like I think they share it in some way. Like there's some organic strategy, there's a lot of paid strategy, but like all the comments on the ads and stuff are like, wow, this is exactly who Lewis is. I know this guy. Da, 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 da. Like, oh, this is the thing I've been waiting to hear. And I'm like, oh, and then I go look at who's making these comments. I realize like, as much as their business is like, you know, got a whole bunch of like salaried office workers, who they're staffing and who are making the decisions about staffing are like plant managers, like the top of the food chain for blue collar. These are people who came up through like, you know, hard work and hourly and shift work and things like that. And they want somebody who's like direct and to the point and no bullshit. Mm-hmm. And so like when they realize they can get that out of a man who wears really expensive Italian suits, they're willing to trust him, right? And that makes a huge difference. And you're just like, oh shit, this was great. This worked. You know, like it's very cool.
I love that you have something that you can show people, and it's like, this is why this works. A lot of times clients will come to us and they're like, I want to do that because that worked. I'm like, that worked for them.
For them, yeah.
That's not your story, right? Totally. And so part of it is just like piecing together what is authentic to you. And I think sometimes people feel like they either can't be vulnerable at all, or they have to be like so vulnerable and talk about everything. And it's like, no. Just like anything, like when you're in a meeting with a client and you're building rapport, and you know, there are pieces that you pull out. Maybe you're talking about your kids, you're talking about the vacation you have coming up, you're connecting over a, you know, a project that you guys worked on, whatever it is. It's like, how do we translate those in-person conversations to digital? That's all we're doing. It's not super scary. It's not something that's entirely new. It's just like piecing that together. Sometimes like you put someone in front of a camera or on social media and they just lose all sense of
the whole thing. They've lost the plot. In themselves.
I'm like, would you ever say that? Like in person? If you were in, would you speak like that? Would you be like, hello folks, I'm having my coffee today. You know, it's like, that's not what it is, you know? My advice is just replicate the conversations that have been most valuable to your customers, that like share that information in a broader sense. I mean, that's kind of what you're doing here, essentially. You know your audience and the kind of information that they want. It's like, how do I facilitate conversations that normally you'd be having one-on-one? Mm-hmm. But you're able to share education. This is like kind of a meta, you know, we're having but this is the kind of thing you're like, I found out this is the kind of thing my audience really benefits from. Mm-hmm. I want them to be in the room, and that's how they feel heard. That's how they feel like they're getting up there in the world, and you're sharing those conversations with people. And that's because you deeply understand your audience.
Yes. And I think like I think that's where like the actually talking to your customers comes into play. So I read a book It's over here somewhere. I don't know. It's in the shelf.
Big book.
It's called Buyer Persona, and it's from Adele Revella, Revella. And she, like, of all of the buyer persona stuff I've ever read, whatever, her unique take was like, you need 10 people. You need them each for a 45-minute conversation. They're like the 6 months most recent customers, and they all need to have purchased the same thing. So I don't care if it's a service or a product, like whatever it is. And then you need to see like maybe 5 questions in an open-ended conversation. And the question you have to start with is, take me all the way back to the time when you first realized you had a problem. Like way before me, way before my website, way before clicking, way before social media attribution, like when you first had a problem. Like, let's talk about that, and then just shut up and let them talk. And like it's been the most interesting thing to watch, like to just document their actual journey from like problem aware, like, I have a problem, to solution aware, like, oh, this problem is one that can be solved. Like, it's unlike the national debt. Like, we're never going to solve that. Cool. I'm aware it's a problem, but I don't know that there's a solution. It's like from problem aware to solution aware, and then to provider aware. Like, how do you arrive at provider? Some people arrive there via YouTube. Some people arrive there via like product type to product type. Some people get all the way down to model versus model, and like that level of detail of like how people arrive at that. And even before that, like, oh, I went to go talk to my sister. I went to go talk to my neighbor. I went to go talk to my buddy. I went to go talk, like, who influences the influencer, right? Like getting that level.
Yeah, that element, we ask all of our clients. We ask them and we ask them every quarter because it might have changed. What is the conversion point? Is the way you say. What is the moment in which someone actually purchases? And you give them examples. Is it a conversation with one of your team members? Is it filling out a form? Is it purchasing online? Like, and when you actually go as far back as you are saying to even identifying what the problem is, you don't realize how often we're making assumptions in the process.
Oh my God.
Yes. I know that they blah, blah, blah. We don't actually. If you just stop, remove all assumptions, and you let yourself listen, you end up learning so much more. And they're usually key pieces that you've missed and opportunities.
Yeah. And like the journey is no longer linear. So like we're back to consumer products for a second, but like my favorite example of this is I listen to a podcast every Monday morning. It's like 2 girls talking about like sex and dating, like fine, whatever. I listen to every Monday morning because it's just like chatter in the morning. Like, gets my brain a little engaged, whatever. And one of their partners forever has been Helix mattresses. I know. Yeah, girls gotta eat. Yeah. So like, it's a great podcast. I love them. I've been to their live shows. Amazing. But like Helix mattresses, right? They have been their partner forever. And I know everything there is to know about a Helix mattress. And they get everyone in their life, this cast of characters, right, to like do this thing. I know that Ashley's brother is like a big and tall guy because they've explained that in different places, right? I'm not a small person. So like when I got to the point that like, oh, they have mattresses for people that might look like me. Great. I had this information in my brain for years. And then I finally moved into a new apartment and I was like, you know what? I need a mattress. And I went to Helix, bought exactly the Midnight Luxe, and like it arrived in a week. Only after that point did I get any of their ads, like any of their social media stuff, any of their emails, any of their whatever, like, oh, I see your ClickFunnels running. And I've already made a purchase. I don't need to be sold anymore. So like I was solution aware before I was problem aware, but I didn't do any other research. Like I just like bought. So it's one of those like, if you understand exactly how your customer arrives at problem to solution, then you can put the solution in front of the problem. So by the time they hit
money and use your dollars as like the most effective.
Yeah, totally. Like you can cut down everything else and only feed Ashley and Raina ad copy from here on out and like make a fuck ton of money. Like it's incredible. So it's like one of the funniest things. I got irritated then at all of the ads I saw after that. I'm like, none of that worked, you guys. What worked is 2 years of me listening to this podcast. Right. And like that exposure, because like I'm not going to move, but as soon as I do, I've already got a solution in hand. Right.
It's so interesting I listen to a few different types of podcasts, and it's so interesting to understand the demographics, how they differ. And
totally.
And then because we're in marketing, right? To
Yeah.
see the kinds of businesses that know the audience
So
really,
well.
and then the ones that just feel like that's kind of random, right? So
Yeah.
there's another podcast called Morning Brew Daily.
Yes. Love Morning Brew. Yes.
And they have a much more male demographic.
Sure.
They have a much more business oriented, like your finance bro demographic. And the ad that I think one of their longer standing ads is they have Robinhood and Yahoo Finance recently
Oh, yeah.
that have been very consistent. And it is so it's so poignant because every week they do stock of the week, dog of the week. They have a whole section, and they're actually just released a podcast that's just about stocks, right?
Nice.
And about investing. And a lot of what they do, it's economics podcast. It's business and economics, but they know that their audience is interested in financial information. They want to be on top of it. So those companies are so well aligned. They're like, okay, this is our demographic.
Yes.
To a T. And if you listen, and then that's the thing, it gets familiar. It's in your brain. There's no one-stop shop. So rarely is someone going to see one piece of content one time and be like, yep, I'm going to make a purchase. Certainly not with B2B.
Yeah.
I mean, your audience is so much more discerning. They're so here. They want to build a long-term, usually, relationship with you. That takes time.
Yeah, like, and a lot of time. And in fact, I was listening to them the other day, and one of their new ad reads, I think for Robinhood, talks about like female investors. And I was like, oh, that means that somewhere in the demographic, Morning Brew's like numbers came back and said, guess what? You've got a bump in female demographic. So we as a company want to be responsive to that and like make sure the women know we're talking to them too, because it can be seen as a very like male dominated podcast, but clearly we're two women not passing the Bechdel test right now on a live, you know what I mean? Like talking about this like situation. So yeah, I just like, it's so critical to like be in tune with your customer, talk to them in person, and keep up with them regularly. Like my favorite thing to do is still like just go read social media comments and go see who those people are, and like go like I do this on LinkedIn ads all the time. I'm like, all right, who's commenting this, who's liking it, and let me go look at their profile. Does their profile read like the audience that I selected or not? Right? And like I'll even go into reporting meetings with our clients like, okay, here's the job titles we're targeting, here's the companies we're targeting. Give me a yes or no on this. And like every once in a while, the company will slip in there like, that's not who we're targeting, or like that's a competitor, or that's a whatever. And so we refine that every month. Like every month we have that conversation. So it just gets like more specific to like the one person I'm looking for that's making that decision and their little buying committee. You know?
Okay, something really cool that I love that you talked about the deep customer awareness, building your customer persona, your buyer persona. Something that we love to pair with that is every region has a different way of speaking about their needs, wants, fears, and goals. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Even if you're targeting a 40-year-old woman with 2 children, if you're targeting her in Boston versus in Houston versus in Sugarland, wherever, it's good. They're all going to talk about things a little bit differently. Sure. And one of the fastest ways to build rapport with a community is to speak to them the way they speak about their problems, the way they speak about their goals. So something that we'll do that's super simple, this is like secret sauce, we'll put together a survey. And you would think, who's going to do a free survey? People do free surveys.
They really do.
We keep it super simple, like 5 questions or less. And it is just about how, and we'll say like, from the business, like, hey, Houston, or specific neighborhoods, even better. Hey, Wicker Park. Hey, whatever.
Yeah.
We are opening a new location, or we're just curious about your thoughts on X, Y. People love a chance to share their They're like, you're listening to me?
Yes. Because in this digital world, no one's actually connected. So like, oh, I can connect to something. Let's do it. Oh, I'm a sucker for that.
We put together a super simple survey. All of them are short responses. So they have to type in words, like their own words.
Yes. Perfect.
And it's like, how do you what are your top, what are your top fears surrounding, say, for example, going to the dentist? Yes. What is stopping you from going to the dentist? Mm-hmm. What is one thing we'll ask a few series of questions depending on the client, depending on what we're looking for. And then you aggregate the responses. You literally only need 20. Even 20, 20 is great, but if you get more than that, awesome. Mm-hmm. And you can see very quickly patterns start to emerge.
Yeah, interesting.
It doesn't have to be perfect. You're not trying to describe your entire community.
No. But you just need a couple indicators.
You need a couple indicators, and what's great is you need the language to use.
Yes.
Every time we've done this, we found patterns in people are using the exact same words. Is it like, and they're talking about things in the exact same way that emerge. And so then in our ad copy, in our social media copy, we use those words.
Yeah.
We're using their own language back to them. And it's just such a good way for people to be like, that's it, I got it. They got it. It's like, how did they know? We know because we asked.
Yes, exactly. Well, I think you can pick this up in the broadest example of this is like when someone speaks a second language. I can always tell because their English grammar is like a little off. And like my sister and I do this too every once in a while because like she spoke Russian for 2 years straight. I spoke Mandarin Chinese for 2 years straight. So we're both fluent in this. But because you're so immersed in it, every once in a while my English is terrible. Where like I'll say a sentence and she'll just look at me, she's like, that was Chinese grammar, wasn't it? I was like, it super was. And like she'll say something, I'm like, that's not how we say that in America. And she's like, dang it. So like, yeah, it's really subtle, but it's like that little dog whistle where you're like, oh, they're exactly like me. They get it. Like they understand me. You know what I mean? Like what I love to do is like figure out what the local ice cream is. So like if I'm talking to somebody in Texas, we are talking about Bluebell flavors, right? But if I'm talking to somebody from upstate New York, it's turkey. Like there's a turkey brand. Hang on. I used to know this. It's got a turkey on it. God damn it. I used to know this. But like if I'm talking to somebody from Ohio, it's Jenny's or it's Grater's or like you get the regional ice cream.
Huge difference. Yeah, like little
totally.
Things, like, oh, you know what's up.
Yeah, if it's Oregon, it's Tillamook, right? And like I have a favorite, there's a chocolate fudge swirl. And the thing about Tillamook is they'll do like instead of like having it kind of mixed in everywhere, they'll just do like a 3-inch band of chocolate fudge in the middle of that. And like I will give everyone else the ice cream and I will just eat this band of chocolate fudge. Like so really dig into like what the local ice cream is. And like what the flavors are. I've had it. You know what I mean? Like, because that's like such a thing. I love it. It makes me so happy. So
no, that makes me. I was actually just talking to a client in Central Florida, and I found out that their community, which we have several clients there, their community is where Publix was founded in Lakeland.
Oh,
and because anytime there's a big company that's been founded somewhere, there's so much pride.
Yes,
they were like,
totally.
I'm obsessed with Publix. Everyone goes to Publix. If you notice about Texas, everyone's obsessed with HEB.
HEB!
Ride or die HEB, right? Oh. And it's like, because we have that local affinity to something. So if you can tie that in, people are about it.
I said this yesterday to Holland. I was like, listen, if you want to see a brand who leaned into like responsiveness really well, HEB did this. Like because there's so much pride about the HEB closest to you and there's so much community connection, people will call it my HEB. Like you don't hear people say my Kroger, my Randall's, my not even my Publix as much as my Wegmans. Like no, but my HEB is a thing. So when HEB like launched an app that was like, curbside delivery, this is like over the pandemic, they called it the My HEB app because it's in your hand and it's the one that's closest to you. And I was like, gold star, way to listen to what's going on and be responsive to it. Like, oh, it's amazing.
That's super cool. No, I like it. I don't know. Maybe it's just because we're hyper aware because we're in the marketing field, but that kind of stuff, it seeps into your consciousness and like for sure affects the way that you perceive a business.
Totally. So what are you finding what are you finding in terms of content that like is doing the best? Like if we zoom out, like is there a format that's working best? Is there like a model that's working best that like people can like a place to start that's not as overwhelming as like overhaul your entire mentality?
So video is to the day is the most effective form of communication with your audience online. So, and a lot of businesses are afraid of video, or they're like, does it have to be in a studio? No, it literally does not. Yeah. Just has to be clear, straight. Your iPhone is just fine. Yeah. You're good. Video and as customer testimonials, as silly as it is, it seems so simple. Yeah. But if you can actually pull a story from someone that is authentic and that's talking about their experience, that is so good. So I would say that part of things. And then the other part of things is how are you engaging with your community online? So not just posting something and then going back into your hole.
Yeah,
but you comment on things? Do you engage with your audience when they comment back to you? Yeah. That is not just the role of the social media manager. That is the role of the business owners. That is the role of everyone involved. Is like as individuals that make up this company and this culture. It's the same way as when someone walks in your store, how you treat how you treat every customer, right? That just needs to translate to online. And that when you find businesses that they have buy-in from most of their employees, they're engaging online, LinkedIn, figuring out their, LinkedIn or YouTube or this and that. Doesn't have to be 24/7, but here and there, it makes a huge
difference. I had a client, they're Maddox, they're here in town. They do like downhole technology advancement, and they their sales team was so on it, and they understood this aspect of social media better than anyone I've ever known in oil and gas, frankly, that they asked me, they're like, is there a way that you can feed that LinkedIn ads to us? And I was like, that's going to cost you a lot of money. And I was like, what do you want to do with that? And they're like, well, we want to see who's commenting and liking and get to know them. And I was like, I'll do you one better. I will send you the permalink to this ad so you can do this. And I sent it to him once, expecting it to kind of happen for a couple weeks and then fizzle out. But about once a quarter, the entire sales team got on, looked at all the comments, responded to them, answered questions, linked to now they are actually a technology company. They do need white papers. They linked to free white papers. Actually the question you're asking about the diameter of blah, 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 blah exists over here. They really tackled it as and they made even the ads delivering on LinkedIn part of an online community, where normally you only see that kind of community management done on organic, right? But for it to happen on the ad side, I only had to send those links once, and they were they ate it up. I was like, okay, you guys get it. This is a relationship that we're building online, and the content is resonating with you so much that their potential customer has questions, and they want their potential customer to know this is not just we're going to post this or we're going to feed this to you to get some metrics for the marketing team, us, and then disappear. When you get the team, you get the team. We're all here behind it, paying attention to your business and helping you get what you need. It was fascinating. I've never seen it done better. And I was like, oh.
It's wild to me when people don't respond to paid ads the way they respond to organic. Because I'm like, those are people that you paid for their attention and showing you that they are, you paid for their views or maybe their clicks, but if they're commenting, if they're engaging and whatever it is, it's they care and they're curious. And curiosity is just right for the taking.
Yeah.
But you need to engage with them like a human being.
Totally. And I think the storytelling part encourages that engagement even more. So when you find your customer stories that you're talking about, I don't do distribution anymore, so I'm happy to give this hack away. My favorite thing about LinkedIn, and I had to make these custom rules on Facebook too, but LinkedIn has a little button that says distribute evenly. And if you have a store, a customer journey to tell, that's maybe a 2-minute video, no one's watching a 2-minute video. They will watch 30 seconds at a time though. And I can make sure that one person has seen that entire story 30 seconds at a time by distributing that evenly. So the first time that member logs on, they're going to see the first one, and the second time, the second one, the third one, the third, and then they'll rotate through the whole thing. And it's the best way to tell a story. And I always got to the last one and they were like, oh my God, I totally get it. It's all the engagement exists on the last one because they had to watch that whole thing. You know what I mean? It might have taken 5 weeks, but they saw it, right? And now the
attention spans, you have to cater to the fact that changed and that it's okay that some people are still so into long form content, but everyone loves short form content.
Yes. And it's so interesting to me that listen, how just bringing awareness to a business leader on what do you do on social media? And I ask this question every time I'm in a boardroom. I'm getting pushed back against short form. I'm like, when's the last time you sat on your phone on Facebook and watched a 2-minute video? And every single one of them just goes, oh. And I'm like, then why do you think your customer is any different? It's still a human being over there that is doing human things and making human decisions. Yeah. So
it's not like they're I'm in work mode. I need to, especially with I keep coming out to B2B because it's so much of it feels like a harder puzzle to solve.
It is.
Right?
It is.
But it's still people and it's still humans who have the exact same habits. And if you can attract, I think the best B2B ads that I have seen recently have actually been the ones that are funny and poignant and hit me at my stress points. For example, we are a web design firm. We do digital advertising and website design. Mm-hmm. And a tool that we use all the time is a tool called Webflow. It's a really, really great website builder. We use a bunch of different platforms. Okay. Webflow is killing it. They are really, and their ads are they can get across in 15 seconds. They take the biggest pain points for people like us, for the designers,
okay,
and they're like, okay, how in WordPress you'd have to have like all of your windows open at once or like update this and everything would crash. And they make like a little joke about it. And it's so relevant because you're like, I have dealt with that.
I've experienced that exact thing. Oh, interesting.
That thing. And they have this massive ad campaign that's these small little snippets of like the pain points that we experience.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what it is, whoever your customer is, there are for sure pain points.
For sure. Yeah.
With the competitors, with the current way that things are doing it. It's that age old, what are you solving?
Yeah.
How do you actually share that you're like, you can share that seriously through humor.
Sure.
It resonates so well when you can be like, oh my God, that happened to me.
And it's so much better as a show don't tell. Like I can sit here and tell you that I've experienced that, but you're not quite going to believe it because I also have the solution. But if you like just a screen record of the problem, then I'm like, yeah, that annoys the crap out of me. Do you have a way to solve that? I'll buy it right now. Like
I saw another one that I thought was so great. There is, so in my, actually this will go for any social media manager, anyone that's on social media. So stock photography, that is free. Okay. Free stock photography sucks. And there's like a couple of websites and they have, and it's one of those things you don't think about, but this ad was like, yeah, have you noticed that every single free stock photo looks like it was shot in 2015? That's because it was. And the whole style of how things are taken has changed. And this, it's a new company. I'll send it to you because it's like really cool.
Please.
Their whole thing is they're the new Unsplash because Unsplash photos haven't been updated since like 2015.
Sure.
And they have photos that look like that are basically submitted by Gen Z that look so UGC, that look like something you would post. If you notice how Instagram has changed in the past like years.
Yeah, totally.
And that the whole style, and millennials have followed, Gen X, everyone is like following the train for how photos have changed. Well, imagine if your stock photography actually looked like that instead of looking. Yeah. It's so obvious to go to a website and you're like, oh, you're using the same photo that we're using.
Yeah.
You've seen that a lot where you're like, oh gosh, that's because they don't have. And most businesses don't have. They may not have the budget, or they need something on social media. But it was a short TikTok video, and I was like, oh my God, I've totally experienced that problem. And
totally.
And then they showed their own stuff, and I was like, that's so
interesting. Oh, I love that. I've had that experience where like I used something that I thought was like in the bottom corner of the internet and nobody would find, and then some big brand used it. Like, and it drives me crazy.
Yeah.
I've got a question for you. Stephanie wants to know what was the name of the stock photo site.
Oh, I of course can't remember this exact. This is gonna kill me. I will figure it out and we'll post it.
Okay, we'll post it. All right, cool, perfect. Well, yeah. I had this issue with our Ask Your Work Wife music. I was watching TV one night and I was like working on the floor and like do it like a whole bunch of like organization stuff, and I heard our the bass line from our music, and it's like we bought it, but it's like on some website somewhere. I haven't like taken the time or the budget to like go make somebody do some custom music, but like I heard it and I was like, is my phone playing? What's happening? It was an Amazon pharmacy ad that was like an OTT delivering to like Amazon Prime like video, whatever I was watching. I think I was watching, I don't know, some show. But like I was like, Amazon, you have the budget to do better, and you're not. Like what? Like
you're like, come on.
You paid for the music, but like it's one of those like I'm just so irritated. I'm like, no, like.
And that kills the authenticity thing so quick.
Yeah,
so go to all these websites. I cannot tell you because we're B2B and we work with all sorts of businesses, and part of my job is looking at websites.
Yeah.
And how they stack up in our team. And I cannot tell you how many times I've seen the exact same photos on the website. Yes. And I'm like, how can I believe that everything else is not just copy and paste?
Right.
Something as simple as your photos look the same as everybody else's.
Yeah. Oh, it's the worst. You're like, so now the content that really resonated with me on social media, I got to their website, and the website looks like, because I'm comparing 3 competitors to each other, they'll look the same. Now I've lost the plot on all of it, and I can't. I'm like, well, now I have to start over because I don't want any of this. Like, oh, 100%. Yeah, it's the worst. I hate it.
But that's, I think those all are very solvable things.
Totally.
Right? And it starts by identifying, like you said, the personality, how your personality shows out, how you want your business to be perceived, and then trial and error. The biggest thing is you're not going to learn unless you put something out there.
And you can't break it. Like, you cannot break it. Just keep testing it because you might find something that works. Like,
yeah. But I know it can be scary to to do it in the first place. I actually am, it's continually surprises me how often we get businesses that have never run paid ads. They've been around for 15, 20 years,
Totally.
multi-million-dollar businesses, but they have never had a marketing budget. Never had a marketing budget, you know?
Like,
And
what are we doing with our profit? I don't know.
And you know, that's because so many businesses, everyone knows, okay, referral is the best way to grow a business. Great, but that's not the only way. And you're never going to, like, your business is not going to completely survive on just referral alone. At some point, something will happen. And
That's
usually you wait until everything is on fire. And you're like, oh, maybe I should do something about this. And by the time you come to us, like, we have businesses that come to us and we're like, why didn't you come to us a year ago? Why didn't you come to us 2 years ago? It's only when things are dire, and then it's like we need an immediate solution. And the worst part is, I'm like, there is no immediate solution.
No.
What we're putting in place now, you're going to see the benefits of 6 months from now.
Mm-hmm. Like
3 months from now, and we can do a lot quickly.
But it's
to get into the psyche.
Yeah.
To dig in, to deeply understand your customers. Like, usually we're making up for lost time.
Right. And you're trying to like do some like, you know, get the low hanging fruit in a lead gen campaign quickly so that you can like at least like stop the hemorrhaging and then like build that like long term. I like you're like into the psyche. Yeah. Like I want this to be the first thing you think about when you wake up in the morning. You know what I mean? Like
that comes from building.
Yes.
Intentionality, consistency.
Yes.
It's unsexy, but it is what actually drives it to have continual revenue over and over.
Agreed. Well, speaking of unsexy, what's your deal? What you've just moved to Houston, and like I feel like the unsexy part is what you and I've been doing recently, which is like, let's go to networking events and let's meet people and let's get business cards and let's talk to people. Like what's happening? So like what talk to me about the Idea Farm. What are you up to? Like how did you get there?
Yeah. Okay. So we get this question all the time. Why Houston?
Yeah. I mean, I love it, but it is a town only built for business. Like we're very good at oil and gas and museums and restaurants because people come in from out of town. That's all we do.
Well, so my business partner, Jose, and I, we had outgrown where we were and we wanted to be in a major city. And so I was in Kentucky, he was in Indiana. We have a really big base in the Midwest, and we're very ambitious. But also after COVID, we had a remote business for a long time. Everything that we do can technically be done online, but there is so much more energy when we have a group of people. We have a team in person.
Yeah.
We wanted to build a team in person again, and we also wanted to do it in a place where we could meet other ambitious people, because I soak up the energy that I am around. And then so we started with like, okay, all the major US cities, what's been growing. We did the demographic data, the research, whatever. And then also what are business friendly states. So it was the most methodical approach. But then also we were like, I was like, I hate winter. I'm not doing a office was right outside Chicago and it was a mile from Lake Michigan. And last May, I was walking my dog, freezing my butt off, and I called Jose, who is chilling in Puerto Rico, and I said, I'm not doing this. I'm not holding the office down in the winter. I said, we're done. We're going somewhere warm.
That's amazing.
And Houston came up, and the thing is, we knew nothing about Houston.
Great.
We are the kind of people that will do a lot of research and we'll make a very quick decision. So it's like, sure, why not? We flew down with our team randomly. We're here for 48 hours, and it was like we needed to find an office space and hopefully some apartments that would work, you know? I mean, we knew literally nothing. I'm Googling in the hotel room.
Oh my God.
Well, okay, what are the best
neighborhoods? That terrifies me.
Yeah, and I was like, well, okay, walkable neighborhoods and like this and that. And it was so a split-second decision, and it was the best decision we ever could have made.
That's awesome.
I think the thing is that drew us to Houston the most were it's a growing city. It is super diverse, and it's the kind of diversity that you don't see as often, where it is truly a rising tide lifts all boats. There are a lot of cities that are diverse, and yet the people that are successful all look the same.
Yeah.
Here, it feels like things are more evenly distributed than perhaps elsewhere. You have people of all different backgrounds. You have a lot of international people. And then they stay here and do really good things. And because of that, they invest back into the community. So I'm huge.
And you end up with like what I love to tell people is like there are no zoning laws in Houston. So like you can have a multi-million-dollar mansion right next to a shack, right next to a homeless man. And that's how we like it. We like to keep it up front. So you're like, this is what we're working with, and this is the reality of life. We know exactly where our bread is buttered. Yeah, 100%.
And so we moved our business here, and I think the first 6 months were just getting our operations, building up our team, getting the lay of the land. And only in the past couple of months has it hit us, ooh, we should probably like meet some people. I should probably like be social and get to know actually Houston. And what's been so cool is how welcoming everyone is. So I'm from Kentucky, and that we haven't been. It's like Southern culture, very ingrained.
I've been to Tennessee, but not Kentucky.
And it's similar. It's people are very friendly, small town, that kind of thing. Houston has that vibe. I was so surprised at how kind and open people are. I lived in New York City and Chicago before this, so those are the opposite. You would talk to your neighbor, and they would be like, "Why are you like? Stop talking to me."
The only time in the Astros like calendar that I'm ever scared for my life is when the White Sox come to play, because like there's something about like Chicagoans. I'm like that scares the shit out of me. Like I don't like. I don't want to talk to you. Like you have fuck off for another.
They don't want to talk to you either. So.
Well, yeah, I'm like we're good. I'll stay over here. You can be on that side of the. You're over there. Yeah,
and maybe it's because of the Southern culture, but I also think it's because this city is such a mix of people, a lot of people from all over.
Yeah.
But there's this open energy. And also, so many people asked us, why did you choose Houston versus Austin? Okay.
Sure. Oh,
okay. Yeah. So especially outside of Texas, Austin gets, Austin's where all the startups are and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, maybe I just like an underdog, first off. I'm a huge fan, but also it feels like Austin was dominated by big business that has come in, and it's dominated by the bigger tech companies and all of that. And yeah, they're fostering incubation and entrepreneurship, but it doesn't feel like it's grassroots. It feels like top down versus bottom up. Houston energy completely feels bottom up. It feels like people who have scrimped and saved, who have worked their butts off, who are coming from here and they're going all the way up to here. And there's just such an appreciation of like, you put in the work.
Yeah.
And that's what we've been doing for the past 5 years. And it just feels like, okay, we're in a city that gets it now.
I feel like you get Houston. Like there's always been. So I was at an AMA luncheon like the one you and I went to at the Rockets, but with Meow Wolf, and they're opening a Meow Wolf here. And like as they got into this conversation about like what is Houston, I was like, it's hard to define because Houston is so diverse and it's so spread out. And like every once in a while you'll find somebody that like you can get a pocket of Houston, or you can get, like a sliver of it, or you're like, okay, yeah, that's true of like East Downtown, or that's true of the Heights, or that's true of like a neighborhood in Houston. But like to really capture the total essence of Houston, like you have to be way bigger than that. And I feel like it's really summed up in the graffiti that's over I-45. Like be someone, right? Like this is a city where you can be anyone you want. You can be anything you want. It's a young city. Like our skyline was only built in the steel boom in the 80s. So like, that's why we don't have a strong identity. We're not entrenched in it. And I think that's an asset. I don't think we need to like double down on something because we attract people like you that are like, I want to build something from the ground up. And everyone here has done that. And so we understand the value of like helping out and reaching out a hand. And like, I was on Sunday, 2 days ago. I don't even know what day of the week it is. I was at an industry mixer for like filmmakers who like I employ them because I employ videography people for like all the businesses to make all the content, but every single one of them has a film they're making and they want to make it in Houston. They want to make it here. And we're finally like getting people together enough and getting some traction to like kind of like combat the idea that Austin is the only cool place to be in this town or in the state. So like, yeah, we're like, but part of me is like, don't come here if you're not cool, like,
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm so with you. I think what surprised me the most is actually how friendly people have been in the industry and how much collaboration there is. And I think that's going to bode so well for the future of Houston because that's how you grow. But that's not how it is other places. We were actually I'd like to call us a 50-year-old startup.
Sure.
Because I actually took over the business 5 years ago when my father passed away. And it has been around for a long time, but now it's a completely different business. And after, I partnered with Jose, came in as the CEO, who really transformed. Like, he took the business in this amazing new direction to keep up.
Yeah.
But like, it feels like we're a 50-year-old startup,
Yeah.
which is wild, but there are things that we know we do really well. And then there's lots of opportunity for partnership.
Totally.
In this town, so many businesses are willing to come inside and work together to tackle the vision. Because that's actually how you make progress.
100%. Like we understand that like there's plenty of business to be had. There's plenty of money to go around, and like we don't need to be scarce about it, which leads us generosity, which I adore. So, okay, so you've like inherited this business and you've changed it into something you want to do, and obviously you're expanding to a whole new city, which is not a small city. We're the fourth I'm gonna call us the third largest at this point. Like we're either taking over Chicago or LA. I'll take over LA first, but what kind of advice would you give to people who are like maybe wanting to do what you're doing, who are like wanting to start their own business, or where I'm at, like I also inherited a family business and I'm just like I couldn't be bothered to sell it. How do you decide whether to like stay in it and pivot or like grow it or turn into what you want to become? Like what advice would you give people?
So first off, do you want to do it? Take family obligation aside. Do you genuinely, is there something about it that will feed your soul, that you would enjoy doing? I just happen to marketing, storytelling has always been a huge thread in my life. So it aligned really well, even though I never, ever expected to.
Sure.
Is there a part of it that you love? And then are there parts where you can bring people on, but if there's nothing about it that you like, if there's nothing about it you think you'll like, that may not be right for you. But if you are trying to build and grow, especially if you're like going to a new place, I mean, I think sometimes what's hard is the place you may have been raised in may not, or the place that you find yourself in may not be the place that's right for you. Some of my best friends and people in the world are in Kentucky still. And I love Kentucky with all my heart, but it's a really great place to raise a family and to retire. But it's not going to be where you have your magnets of industry, where you have this like hotbed of innovation. Yeah. And I wanted so desperately to be around people where the energy was infectious, where I walk into a room and I'm not the only person that is doing something that is different than the norm. All these people that are changing, ideas are infectious. Energy is infectious.
Yeah.
And I made the hard decision to move and to leave, but I know it's the right decision because every day I have so much more energy for the things that I want to do and for achieving my goals and my ambitions. So my advice is you have autonomy over your life, even if you have and it is hard. I'm not going to say it is easy, but it's possible. You just have to make a plan and see it through.
Okay. We're going to have to come back to this because I need some coaching in this area. I need like a pep talk. I need your energy on this particular.
Okay, calendar. The other thing is, it's after COVID, I think I forgot how to socialize. I used to be an extrovert, but then I get like social anxiety too. And I'm like, I don't know how to talk to people, or I can talk, but then it's like, do I really want to leave my house right now? Mm-hmm. So what I do is at the beginning of every week or month, I will look at Houston 365. I will look at Ion. I'll look at all of the different things that I know will post the events and what's going on.
Sure.
I'll put on my calendar, and if it's on my calendar, I gotta go.
Okay, great. I need to put the Yale Farmers Market that's like right outside my building on your calendar. It's like every other Sunday, and you and I can just like go to the farmers market and go on a walk.
That sounds great. Please.
Okay,
I love farmers markets. So.
Yay. This one's particularly good. There's like handmade like pasta, homemade salsa. There's a guy who comes in from like with like eggs that are adorable. Like you're just like, it's fun. Yeah. I enjoyed it a lot.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, it sounds like we have plans. And also,
exactly.
Yeah. It's just, I think from the outside in, it's so easy to make it seem like other people have it together.
Agreed.
Just assume that no one has it together. Just assume that we are all struggling in our own ways, because I've had so many people that think, oh, you're a natural. Oh, you travel all the world. You talk to whatever. And I don't want to leave my house. I don't want to talk to people. I get nervous before a networking event sometimes just because I don't want to say or do the wrong thing. That stuff carries with you. It's okay to be scared. My thing is just to do it anyway.
Yeah, like it's such a good reminder. I was at this thing on Sunday and like one of my friends is a filmmaker. His girlfriend was there who owns her own business in Houston. She's incredible. She's an esthetician. And like, and we were just talking about kind of normal stuff, just updating. I was like, man, I feel like I'm overwhelmed. I feel like I'm not getting any traction anywhere. And she just like stopped me. She's like, hang on. Every time I see you, you're doing the following things. She started listing everything that I did in the last week. And she's like, you're doing amazing. I was like, really? Like, I think that's half the reason. Yeah, you do. Like, half the reason is to get out and socialize, like, even outside the networking stuff. Like,
100%. Because it reminds you that you're doing okay.
Yeah, perspective, everybody.
Yes. Yeah. Especially for anyone that is ambitious, you tend to be really hard on yourself.
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
Okay, well, more therapy next week. Come see me at the farmer's market.
Thank
You're
you
amazing.
So much, I honestly, it's just such a good way to spend an hour, and I love talking to you.
Yeah, I love talking to you too. Tell other people who may or may not be listening where they can find you, and then we'll hop off and continue this conversation because we're gonna keep talking apparently.
So you can find The Idea Farm. We're at theideafarm.net, not .com, .net, very specifically. I have a war against that. And The Idea Farm, I'll link it below, but you can also find me on LinkedIn, Emma Jackson, and you can connect with us there. And also, I'll drop all the links below.
Okay, perfect. All right, you guys are great.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah.